Ladies and boys and girls, girlies, okay, promise you, it's the media tour, the precipice, the editor, and the future of the world over exposed kaiju. And today, we're back on the reaction channel doing some more over simplified. And okay, so we're getting actually really close to the end of watching all of the oversimplified. I think all you have left are a couple of one-offs. We have the Three Kingdoms. We have the Board Bucket. We have King Henry the Eighth. And I think we have the French Revolution. The the Russian Revolution, the French Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, and the Cold War. And we're done. We have all the oversimplified. We have like what, 6, 7 episodes left. So I think for now we're gonna do like the one-offs. Knock out the one-offs, right? And then we'll do the revolution. Then we'll do like the French Revolution. We'll do the one-offs for now though. Today we'll do. How about the Three Kingdoms? Seems like fun.
This video
sounds like a good old-fashioned, time, right? Yeah. So we did Three Kingdoms, and then let's record a couple of like one-offs. I think we're gonna do for like the one-offs, right? Because I typically try to keep them, together. If they're like a series, So I think for the one-offs, we'll probably do like one video per, right? And then we'll combine the Russian Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Cold War together. The videos for those. But yeah, so we only have like 5, I think 5 maybe question mark oversimplified videos left currently for reactions, which is pretty crazy. Anyways, enough rambling. I'll make sure to check out oversimplified. I'll put the link to the Three Kingdoms video in the cards below. If you want to go check out the commentary, make sure to subscribe to Oversimplified. He's awesome. He's one of the best history channels out there. Especially if somebody just wants to, learn the basics, or somebody's just getting into history. Oversimplified is definitely your guy. He'll definitely get you that kick you want. You need to start getting into the rapid days history. And make sure you check out, and if you're new to my channel, and you enjoy the content commentary, do use your hit like button. Make sure to stick around. Make sure to subscribe and turn your Center Mafia. And yeah, anyways, so the Three Kingdoms. I know it's like a Chinese civil war, like ancient China. So I know, like I don't know a whole lot about it. All I know it was ancient China. It was like a massive civil war of like the warring Chinese states at the time. And yeah, that's all I know. Yeah, I think it was like the emperor died or something, and I don't remember. I don't know. Like I don't know anything about it. I think the emperor died, and it turned into like a succession crisis, maybe. And it became like the warring states, right? Trying to find like who the successor to the emperor could be. I think I don't know. Like I don't know. Like my Chinese history knowledge is not the best, so we'll be learning something new together, I guess.
Ancient China.
2000 BC.
Shining, the birds are singing. The children are playing in the village square. What a wonderful time to be alive. Hey, the Yellow River flooded again and destroyed all your crops. And also we're being raided by nomadic tribes.
Oh, cool.
And also this period of Chinese history may be entirely mythical, meaning you may not even exist. Well, that would certainly explain the laser eyes. Chinese civilization began around the year 2000 BC when the possibly mythical Xia dynasty was formed. Throughout China's history, dynasties would usually rise up with a powerful leader who worked for the good of the people.
I never understood the whole like mythical thing, right? Like if the country existed, then there would have to be some kind of like remnants, right? Some kind of like history, some kind of like ruins or something, right? Like there's gotta be some kind of record that shows like, hey, this actually, or maybe it's like we have records that existed, but we just don't have the history written down. So like it's like the history and like the records are like brought down to interpretation by like the people. I don't know. I've always found that like interesting. Like a lot of these like ancient nations have like, because I think Vietnam has, and Japan. I know if Japan has like a mythical era also with like Jimmy Jimmu. Is I pronounce his name Jimmu? Like the first emperor of Japan. Jimmu. Yeah, this guy right here. He was like the first emperor of Japan, and like the founder of Japan. But like there's no like evidence or like what is it? Like he's like they have no evidence that he actually existed, right? Or something like that. But yeah, he was like the first emperor of Japan, but they have no proof of his existence. And everything around him was just like it was like myth. And I think Vietnam has like a mythical, quote unquote mythical era too. And I think a few other countries. I think India also has a mythical period too, if I'm not mistaken. Kind of crazy.
But over time, the leaders would become more corrupt and self-serving. Someone would inevitably build a lake of alcohol, and the angry populace.
And a lake of alcohol, is that a real thing?
The leaders would become more corrupt and self-serving. Someone would inevitably build a
Got concubines. He has a meatery.
lake of alcohol, and
Lake of alcohol. Is that a real thing? Oh god, I'm so bad at spelling. Alcohol. Lake of wine and forest of meats. The Deer Trans Pavilion, with a structure believed to have been built during the Shang Dynasty, near present-day in Mountain Road, is a site of a luxurious pool in the Lake of Wine and forest of meats. The meat was hung alongside the pool that filled wine with the personal pleasure of King Zhu of Shang, and is now a Chinese idiom for excessive extravagance and debauchery. 1999, the pool was uncovered in an archaeological survey and found 130 meters wide. Contemporary water wells were also found close to the pool, leading archaeologists to conclude that the primary function that supply underground to the pavilion. Okay. Saying the beginning of this. The charred remains of the pavilion has yet to be accounted. That's crazy. Huh. King of the Shang Dynasty. So this was this guy right here. King Di Zin of Shang. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm like mispronouncing this. But dang. So this guy literally had a forest of meats in a pool or like a river of wine. That's crazy. Well,
the angry populace would overthrow them, giving way for a new dynasty to rise. Following this pattern, the Xia dynasty was replaced by the Shang, who liked bronze and writing, but then the leaders got corrupt, and were replaced by the Zhou, who liked iron and philosophy. But that one sort of just fell apart, and
they lasted for a long time though. 1046 to 256 BC. They definitely did. Definitely did lasted a long time. That's a pretty long empire.
Was replaced by the Qin, who liked building walls and people made out of rock. But they were
Oh,
pretty
the Great Wall of Empire. Okay, they did not last very long. The fact that they were only around for like 18 years, and they started they started because I think the Great Wall Channel, like they expanded as the Chinese empires grew, right? And it was to keep like the Mongols and like other quote unquote barbaric tribes out of China, right? 'Cause I think like multiple dynasties would add on to the walls as their borders grew.
tyrannical from the start, and were quickly replaced by the Han, who liked creating new trade routes and
Yeah, okay, and they lasted for a pretty long time, 208 BC to 220 AD. All right, not bad.
getting in touch with their emotions. In
Oh,
line with this
okay,
pattern,
cool.
the Han Dynasty came about under the strong and popular leadership of Emperor Gaozu. The dynasty remained firmly in place for over 4 centuries and was considered a golden age in Chinese history,
That's good.
developing new forms of art, political thinking, technology. Oh, looks like all the leaders got corrupt.
Is it fish spinner?
Probably the biggest problem in ancient China's political system that allowed so much corruption to come about all the time was a little something called court culture. Let me explain.
Okay.
Imagine for me, if you will,
All
that
right.
you are the son of the Chinese emperor.
Oh, cool.
Hooray! Now, apart from how weird it is that you have a ton of stepmoms and many of them would like to kill you, and also
Oh.
all of your friends are middle-aged dudes with no dongs, life's pretty alright. One day, your father says, "Son, I know our relationship hasn't been the best, and I've never said this before, but I just want to let you know that I love you." Oh no, I'm having a heart attack!
Oh, shit.
Look at you. Now you're the emperor. I'm so proud of you.
Oh.
But wait, you are but a child and have no idea how to rule over a massive empire. Fret not, because just about everyone in your court wants to help you out with that. Hey man,
Uh-huh.
remember me? I'm your mom's bro. Anyway,
Which
I
mom?
heard you needed someone to rule over China for you. I mean, to help
Bro, what a weird. Bro, what a weird sentence. Hey, you remember I'm your mom, bro. Which mom? Holy shit. Oh my god, holy shit.
you rule China.
Okay.
So hey, here's a popsicle.
Oh,
I hope we
sick.
can get along. No way, man. We've been your friends and your personal caretakers your whole
You guys are eunuchs, right? The eunuchs have like no dongs, right? That's so weird to me. But like, wasn't like the whole point? Maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I'm no expert on Chinese history or anything like that. Like, wasn't the whole point of like the reason they cut off their dongs was because they didn't want to have like sexual like pleasure or like pressure, whatever, to like weigh them down, and so I can just focus completely on like subserving the emperor, right? Not having like their sexual drives get in the way of them, you know, basically like help the emperor and like serve the emperor and help build the empire up, right? Like, was that the whole point? Maybe I'm wrong, but I think I'm pretty sure like the whole reason they cut off their manhood was because they didn't, they they wanted to use their head, not their other head, if you know what I mean.
whole life. And even though we may have no dongs, I think you should give us all the power to rule China. I mean, help you rule China. So who will you be influenced by? Your scheming uncle or your loyal eunuchs? And towards the end of the Han Dynasty, a string of child emperors allowed more and more power to fall into the hands of the eunuchs. Oh no!
That's crazy. Like something you know think about is the kid emperors were like very much a thing, especially like in ancient times. Like Egypt had their fair share of like children pharaoh slash emperors. China has had kid emperors. Like that's crazy. Children. I can't spell. It's gonna keep bringing up Warhammer over here. But yeah, I know, like Egypt had some. I know Egypt had some like children pharaohs slash emperors, and China's had them. I think the Vietnamese had a couple too. Maybe I could be wrong about that one.
Now they're scheming too. They began handing out government jobs for bribes, heavily taxing the poor for their own wealth. And while you're sitting there eating your popsicle, everyone in your court is literally murdering each other, trying to consolidate more power and riches for themselves. While all the peasants are outside like, hey, did you guys know there's been a drought out here for 2 years?
Guys?
Obviously, the people weren't too happy that while they were struggling to survive, they were also being heavily taxed so that the eunuch faction could all have rockin' mansions, complete with swimming pools and Alexas. So finally, when a self-proclaimed Taoist wizard came along and was like, you know whose fault it is that we're all out here starving?
Emperor?
It's the Emperor and his posse. They've lost their mandate from heaven, and the imperial family must be destroyed with an unrelenting, furious wrath. Also, check this out.
Okay.
Huh? Can you tell what it is yet?
Kitty?
Ta-da!
Oh!
It's a little kitty cat.
I guess.
Look at her little ears. The people loved his political philosophy.
I was only guessing either a kitty or a monkey. It was a kitty. Alright.
He promised them land reforms, and his followers grew in number. They began arming themselves and wearing yellow turbans. And they also developed a really catchy slogan. In the year 184, the Yellow Turban Rebellion broke out across China. Yellow turbans. And they
I was gonna read the slogan, and I saw this guy over here, like, bro, one of these things don't belong here. And it's this motherfucker who has the bread and like the yellow destruction vest over here.
also developed a really catchy slogan.
The Jersey sky is already dead. The yellow sky will soon rise. Alright.
In the year 184, the Yellow Turban Rebellion broke out across China, with millions rising up against the Han Dynasty, and the imperial government in the capital city freaked out. With all their internal bickering, they were completely unprepared and unable to deal with such a huge rebellion, so they were forced to call on independent warlords from across the empire to help them deal with this situation. Some big names took part in the fighting. I'm talking the likes of the great Cao Cao, the tyrannical Dong Zhou, Liu Bei, Sun Jian, and many other Chinese names I am definitely not pronouncing correctly.
Same,
These warlords crushed the rebellion in their own respective regions, and with casualties.
Oh, and then this is like when like so it wasn't like well, I want to say it's not 1%, like, you know, a bid for the throne of the emperors, but like now you have like all these like powerful warlords with like armies all throughout your empire, right? They're gonna start trying to like, declare their independence. They're trying to conquer, you know, trying to like, you know, what am I trying to say here? Now you have like all these like, you know, powerful warlords with like massive armies all throughout your empire because of the rebellions, right? Now they're gonna start thinking to themselves like, huh, you know, maybe I could take over China, build my own dynasty, right? I could become the next emperor of China, and then they'll start, you know, forming like their own little like semi-independent territories, and start trying to conquer the rest of the empire, right?
In the millions, the Han Dynasty breathed a huge sigh of relief.
That's actually crazy to me, though. Like think throughout Chinese history, because like you mentioned, like millions of people died throughout this rebellion, right? If you think about Chinese history, if you look at Chinese history, this happens like many times, like famines, civil wars, like, you know, just average, like, you know, warring, or like civil wars, like all this stuff, like corruption and all that stuff. Like it takes millions of lives. It's crazy. But I guess China, you know, China is a massive country, right? So like when people's like, oh, you know, 40 million people died or whatever, right? Or 5 million or whatever, and it's like that's a big number. And you remember China's like one of the most populous countries in the world. I think India recently passed them. Throughout most of like human history, China was like the most populous nation in the world. So like you think like a million people, it's like, wow, that's a lot of people, and it's like half a percentage point of like the population. It's like, oh,
Relief. But what they didn't realize is that by relying on all the warlords and their armies, they had essentially diminished their own central control over the empire.
Yep.
And many of the warlords now held the power to act almost completely independently and rule over their own local regions themselves. Back in the capital, the emperor and his son were having a little chat. Listen, I know we've had our ups and downs, and I spend all of my time with your many smoking hot stepmoms instead of you. But what say you and I finally go on a little fishing trip together this weekend? Oh no, I'm having a stroke!
It was almost just like Grandpa. You know, Grandpa was here at K. KX, remember? Because this is us, remember? And then Grandpa was about to, or our dad was about to say, like, son, I love, and he had a heart attack. Now our dad, and now us right here, because this is supposed to be us, right? We had a stroke. We're supposed, you know, before we can tell our son that we love him, or you know, take him on a fish trip. Kind of crazy how that always works. Before you can tell your son you love them, that you have a stroke or have a heart attack. Crazy. It's a weird thing in our family, apparently.
And yet another child emperor was on the throne.
Of course there is.
This time, however, instead of the eunuch faction gaining even more power, this child emperor's uncle became his regent, who also just so happened
How is this motherfucker still alive? How is he still, like, he was ancient back when we were a kid, right? Back when our dad, who was emperor, died and we took over the emperorship. Now our son, this is weird. This is getting weird. But stay with me, right? Like this guy was around like back when the original, like when our Chinese father was emperor, and he was ancient back then. And he's still alive. Jesus.
Be the head of the imperial army, He Jin. Man, I hate those sneaky, lying, cheating eunuchs. Hey, Warlord Yuan Shao, what should we do? Kill them all.
Oh, that works.
Right on. You can't kill the eunuchs. They're a vital part
Emperor's
of this empire's governance. And also, they paid me a lot of money to say that about them. Ah, come on. No. So He Jin and Yuan Shao decided the empress may need more convincing. And so they called in an infamous...
Give her your dick. Who said that? I didn't say that.
Feared, tyrannical, overweight warlord from the northwest to help convince her.
Oh.
That man was Dong Zhuo, and he set out for the capital city with his army. Hey guys, I heard a rumor that He Jin was planning on killing us. Then why don't we kill him first? And so it was. They lured him to the palace with a forged letter from his sister, and when he got there, they lobbed off his head.
Oh, so that's what killed him. Not the fact that he was like 300 years old. Jesus. Like this guy was like prehistoric. Like I'm pretty sure he was walking the earth when the dinosaurs were walking the earth, man. And all it took was like 2 stabs and a lob off his head to finally kill him. Oh.
Kill them all. Imperial forces stormed the palace, and the eunuchs were all massacred. The peasants, who were still suffering from drought and starvation, saw what was going on and began to riot. The emperor and his brother were forced to flee the city, which was now in flames, and the feared, nasty, tyrannical, bloated Dong Zhuo had just arrived. He found the emperor and his brother wandering the hills outside of the city and was understandably confused. So he scooped up the emperor, went to the capital and was like, "Hey guys, what's up? I see the capital is on fire. Also, I'm here with my army and I have the emperor with me." Wait a minute, the capital is on fire, I'm here with my army, and I have the emperor. Screw you guys, I'm in charge.
Yeah,
so now Dong
makes sense.
Zhuo ruled over the Han Dynasty as the emperor's regent. His first act was to say to the emperor, "Hey man, no hard feelings, but I like your little brother better, so I'm actually making him emperor instead of you, so you're free to go do whatever you want."
Oh, okay.
Actually,
Oh, damn.
yeah. That feels better. Dong Zhuo ruled with an iron fist, and he did whatever the flip he wanted. He made absolute decisions himself, showing no regard for the monarchy. He had his opponents or those who disagreed with him killed. He broke protocol, doing things like keeping his sword when approaching the emperor, wearing shoes in the court, sleeping in the emperor's bed, and worst of all, he would walk in the presence of the emperor. You were meant to trot. Something needs to be done about this guy. What say we form a coalition and oust him? And it was agreed. Warlords from across China, their armies amounting to 100,000 men, allied together against the tyranny of Dong Zhuo. Yuan Shao's coalition consisted of some of the nation's most capable leaders, including his half-brother Yuan Shu, the great Cao Cao, and Sun Jian. But Dong Zhuo had an ace up his sleeve. his protege and adopted son, one of the most skilled and feared warriors in all of China. It's Lu Bu. This guy was a beast of a man. He
I've
never
heard of
lost
Lu
a
Bu.
duel, and no other warlord dared challenge him to one. He was also famous for betraying just about every warlord he ever fought for, something that Dong Zhou didn't seem too concerned about. The coalition attacked Dong Zhou in Luoyang, and in particular, Sun Jian's forces inflicted a heavy defeat against him, and he was forced to flee to the city of Chang'an. After this initial success, however, the war entered into a stalemate. The warlords in the coalition realized it was going nowhere, and also they all secretly hated each other. So they all went home. Dong Zhou was safe, until... Legend has it that a government official in Chang'an had a daughter who was hot. Super hot.
Damn.
He invited Lu Bu to his home and promised Lu Bu that someday he could marry his daughter. Then, he invited Dong Zhou to his house and did the exact same thing. Dong Zhou was so smitten that he insisted on taking her as his concubine immediately. And when Lu Bu heard the news, he was pretty unhappy.
He wants to kill.
Hey man, aren't you worried that you stole Lu Bu's girl and betrayal is like his personal hobby?
Yeah.
Lu Bu? Betray me? No way, man. Never gonna happen.
Bro, I'm looking at his beard, and his beard's literally just like face pubes.
Ah, crap. Lu Bu, along with other government officials, assassinated the tyrannical Dong Zhou. Then they left his body burning in the streets. Some sources say he was so fat and oily, he kept on burning for days. Nice. So with Dong Zhou dead, and the power of the Han government essentially decimated, China was left with a huge power gap, and a ton of warlords who all slept soundly at night dreaming of being the one to fill it. Here we enter into a crazy and chaotic period of civil war all across China, with so many people, so much betrayal, so much intricacy, it makes Game of Thrones look like a Dr. Seuss publication.
Oh, damn.
But just to give you an idea of how crazy and chaotic it was, see if you're able to keep up with this. Are you ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Here's a rough map of the warlords throughout the Han Dynasty at the time. Half-brothers Yuan Shao and Yuan Shu were both in a power struggle for who would become the figurehead of their family. Yuan Shu made alliances with warlords in the north, along with Sun Jian, the guy who defeated Dong Zhou. Yuan Shao also made alliances with Liu Biao in the south and Cao Cao, who was an amazing strategist and general. All of these warlords began fighting each other. Cao Cao began building his own strength by subjugating nearby remnants of the Yellow Turban Rebellion into his own forces. Down south, things weren't going so well for Sun Jian, as he was killed in an ambush. So Sun 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 Ce took over. Then, Yuan Shu got pushed back to the river Huai, so he ordered Sun Ce to take the territory of warlord Lu Kang. Then Sun Ce went off to capture territories in the east for himself. Cao Cao's family lived in this province over here. One day, they were murdered. Oh no, Cao Cao held the province's governor responsible, and
you did this. Oh. So that was Cao Cao's family over here? Bro, he's about to go on a warpath. He's about to John Wick everybody.
So he launched a cruel invasion in which he pillaged cities and murdered over 100,000 civilians. The governor sent out a call for help, and a very popular, likable warlord by the name of Liu Bei came to his aid. However, while Cao Cao was away fighting, a rebellion was staged against him in his home province, by none other than, it's Lu Bu. Cao Cao rushed home and defeated Lu Bu, who fled to the east, which by now had been inherited by Liu Bei. Then Lu Bu, surprise surprise, launched a rebellion against Liu Bei, who fled to Cao Cao. Together, Cao Cao and Liu Bei would go on to invade and defeat Lu Bu. Lu Bu offered to join Cao Cao, and Cao Cao considered the offer. But his advisors were like, no way, man, this guy's betrayed literally everyone he ever worked for. And
fair. I'd probably just lock him up. Cause I feel like he could be a useful tool. Like, I feel like he could be a useful, right? I think it could be useful, but like you have to kind of like show him that you're in charge. The problem is he has a history of betrayal, and it's hard to get past. Like once you start betraying people you worked for in the past, you can't really go back from that.
And so Boohoo, Lu Bu, was executed.
Yeah.
Next,
he's a good warrior, but yeah, it's like you can't really trust him.
Cao Cao convinced the emperor to move in with him. Now he's in control of the Han government, something that made his allies very jealous. Yuan Shu, out of nowhere, decides to declare himself emperor of the new Zhong dynasty. Nobody liked that. His allies cut ties with him. The imperial government ordered everyone to kill him. He tried to flee to his brother Yuan Shao, but died of illness on the way. Sun Ce took over his territory, and then got assassinated. So his brother, Sun Chen, took over. Liu Bei turned on Cao Cao, but got obliterated, and was forced to flee south. Yuan Shao finally defeated the warlord to his north, and could now focus south. He declared war on his ally Cao Cao, but was defeated at the Battle of Guandu. Cao Cao has now united the north, and he turned his attention to the south. In particular, Liu Biao's province was becoming a powerful threat, so Cao Cao attacked him. Liu Bei was now fighting for Liu Biao, and he held Cao Cao off for a while. But then Liu Biao died and his son took over, and immediately surrendered to Cao Cao. Liu Bei was horrified, and he fled southward to try and maintain control of the province. Cao Cao was on an absolute roll, and it looked like he would be the one to take control of China. He began making plans to attack both Liu Bei and Sun Qian, and the two of them, seeing where things were headed, met up and decided to form an alliance. Now, I know that was a lot to take in.
Yeah, that's
but
a lot.
All you really need to know at this point is that this guy is on his way to taking over everything, and he's about to throw his full weight at the southern warlords. These two have one chance, one battle, to prevent him from invading the south. And that battle was the famous Battle of Red Cliffs. To take the south, Cao Cao would need to control and cross the mighty Yangtze River. He had over 200,000 men to...
I think I've heard about this one before. Like wasn't this like Cao Cao was like overwhelming forces? Like he had like double or triple the amount that Liu Bei and San Quan had, and they still won. Like, oh man, what? Like they had some kind of strategy in that. Like didn't they like, fire flaming bamboo at him, something like that, and it started as like his boats on fire, and it caused like a bunch of his men to like, sink and drown.
face against Liu Bei and Sun Qian's combined force of 50,000. How would they stand a chance when they were so outnumbered? Legend says most of Sun Qian's advisors pleaded with him to surrender, but then he smashed up a table and they all backed down. Luckily, Cao Cao's forces were ravaged by disease and exhaustion, and his northern soldiers weren't too comfortable on ships. So when Cao Cao sailed down the river and the two sides met for an initial skirmish at Wulin, Cao Cao was unable to inflict a defeat against the allies. Then, one of Sun Qian's men came up with a very sneaky plan. He sent Cao Cao a letter, pretending that he and others wanted to defect to his side, and offered to bring him some of Liu Bei and Sun Qian's finest ships. Little did Cao Cao know, however, that those ships were full of flammable reeds. As they approached
that's
the
what
fleet,
it was.
they were set alight and
weeping his wings. That's what it was. Yeah, they basically like sent them like a bunch of like flaming boat, like they spread a bunch of like reeds on the bonfire, and they start. That's what it was. For some reason I thought it was like they fired like flaming bamboo at them. That might have been some other battle. But yeah, I remember hearing about this one. I just couldn't remember what the thing was.
Destroyed his ships and camp. Seeing the situation as hopeless, Cao Cao ordered a difficult retreat through the rain and marshlands, during which more of his men fell to illness and disease. The underdogs had won, and Cao Cao would never again have another chance to take the south. Following that, the three warlords took some time to finish off some smaller competitors in their own regions. And by the year 214, China looked a little bit like this. Cao Cao continued to try to penetrate the southern regions, but had no success, and even lost the Hanzhong region to Liu Bei in 217. The former allies eventually fell out over who should own this territory here, with Sun Qian coming out on top. In 220, Cao Cao died of a head disease, and was replaced by his son, Cao Pi. Cao Pi convinced the Emperor of Han to abdicate, and then proclaimed himself the Emperor of the new state of Wei. Liu Bei followed suit, declaring himself the true Emperor of Shu Han. And a few years later, Sun Qian joined in the fun, and declared himself Emperor of Wu. And so now you have a number of kingdoms in China. How many? Count them. 1, 2, 3. 3 kingdoms. Except, actually, they weren't kingdoms, they were dynasties. And when the 3 kingdoms finally formed, not a whole lot happened. For the next 3 decades, they continued to engage in combat, but it almost always ended in stalemate, and nobody really got anywhere.
They're evenly matched.
So how did it all end? Did Cao Cao's descendants eventually realize his dream of unifying China? Not quite. Instead, the 3 kingdoms became victims of the usual problems that plagued Chinese dynasties. In Wu, Sun Qian's descendant became a tyrant who was more interested in spending time with his concubines than governing. In Shu Han, a powerful, corrupt, eunuch faction rose up, and by now we all know how that ends. And in Wei, a string of young emperors gave way for a powerful family, the Sima clan, to take control of the dynasty's government. This Sima clan recognized the weak state Shu and Wu had been reduced to, and so they began making plans. I've just received this letter that says Wei is planning to attack us. Should we make preparations for war? Nah, it's probably nothing to worry about.
Okay,
let's do absolutely nothing. Sounds good to me. Wei launched a
Wow,
full-scale
that
invasion
was
into
easy.
Shu, which fell within a year. Then Sima Yan forced the Wei emperor to abdicate and proclaimed himself emperor of the new Jin dynasty. In the year 279, Jin launched an invasion of Wu and finally unified China in the year 280. The pattern of rising and falling dynasties, division and reunification would continue in China for centuries to come.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like Chinese history is so fascinating. Like I want to learn more about Chinese history. Like don't they like there's been like so many dynasties and empires in China, and like there's always been like that debate of whether or not like Chinese empire is considered one empire or like multiple different empires, right? Because like it's like I've heard people say like the Chinese empire is one empire, but it's broken up in different eras, based on the dynasties of who's ruling it, right? But then you have other people who say like the Chinese empire is actually not is one singular empire, but like dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of like separate empires that just happen to that like there are dozens and dozens of like separate empires that just happen to be within the same history of like modern the modern day China, right? So I don't know. It's kind of crazy though. Like I don't know. I feel like technically, because like throughout like history, people would like obviously they did dynasties names, but if you look at like the maps, right? If you look at the Qing dynasty, right? Like the last imperial dynasty of China, and I think the Ming dynasty too. Like if you look at maps at those, like it was like a lot of times that maps would have like the dynasty name, and then underneath they'll have Chinese Empire underneath it, right? Or just have the name Chinese Empire on the territory instead of having like, the dynasty name. But depending on the map and the map maker, map maker. What the fuck's a map maker? Map maker. But yeah, like I don't know. It's very complicated because I feel like you can because if both cases do and you'll have merit to them. Like, do you classify as one singular empire, or do you classify it as a bunch of separate empires that have the same that are within Chinese history, you know, of modern day China. Like I would argue that I don't know where I stand on this one. Like I would argue that like it makes sense to kind of have it be like one continuous empire just under different dynasties, right? I think it would be kind of similar to like how like they can the Roman Empire, right? How like the Roman Empire and the Byzantine Empire are more or less considered like how the Byzantine Empire is kind of considered like a continuation of the Roman Empire, and a lot of people consider the Byzantine Empire to be the Roman Empire. I think it's similar to that. I feel like China and their dynasties are very similar to like Rome and the Byzantine Empire. The Byzantine Empire is like a continuation of ancient Rome type of thing, and they're technically the same empire.
Right now, you may be asking yourself, but wait a minute, what would have happened if Cao Cao had?
And I feel like it'd be the same with like ancient Egypt too. How there's been like 14 or 15 dynasties of like ancient China, maybe more than that. Or not sorry, ancient Egypt. Like there's been like a bunch of different dynasties of ancient Egypt, and they're kind of like considered like they're all considered like one, just different dynasties.
His way in unified China? Or what if Lu Bu never assassinated Dong Zhou and he continued to rule over the Han Dynasty? What about if one of these smaller warlords had risen to the top? Dang it, what if I want to be a warlord during the downfall of the Han Dynasty?
Then you can, buddy, but that's an ad, so we're just gonna... There you go. What if I want to be Emperor of China? Well, good luck, I guess. It's crazy though, because like China is like was one of like the most like longest well, I mean, obviously there are different dynasties, but like their monarchy dated back to like ancient times, and it only like really ended in like 1912. Chinese. Empire. Imperial China. That's. I believe it ended in 1912. Yeah, 1912. Though I think they did have like a. I think they did like briefly revive. At one point. Imperial China. Yeah. Show map of the Qing Empire, published 1905. Jesus, it was a massive nation too. Like, the Qing, even after like they lost some of their territories after like the century of humiliation, right? Like they still were a massive empire. Yeah. Anyways, that was interesting. I would like to learn more about Chinese history because China does have a really long and interesting history. But maybe we'll look into more Chinese history in the future. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the content and commentary, do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're new, stick around. Don't make the subscribing and doing off you. Also, make sure you check out OverSimplified and make sure you check out the Three Kingdoms video. I'll put the link to his channel and I'll put the link to the video we react to in the description below. So go check it out. Go leave him a like. Go subscribe to his channel. He's awesome. But yeah, there's I'll there. Peace.
Go build on myself so I can truly build. Hey.